I want to tell you a bit of a tale. I don't really need to focus on clean it up. The rain, you know, like the rain should. So it really. No, I'm not feeling the greatest still. God damn, dude, it's been since Saturday. Today's Saturday. It's been a week. My whole vacation just ruined. God damn it, dude. Anyway, so I want to tell a little tale about how the darkness grew in mankind, only in my book. Now, all you need to know is that long, long ago, mankind rose from the deep, dark forests of the world and came into the land to slowly flourish over the years. Now, many, many stories I could tell. Many, many stories. But we want to focus on one. After hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, eventually there was a division of mankind. A division of consciousness, if you want to call it that, of thought, of different religious belief, if you will. But it was this. There were two brothers. One was named Odysseus, the other was named Tanais. These two were princes of the kingdom of man. Kingdom of man has only been around for like less than 1,000 years at this point, outside of the forest. Now, it was Odysseus who wanted to venture back into the forest merely out of his own curiosity. It was Tanais who was told by God never to go into the forest again. For it is a cursed place, it's bad, it's a no-no. It's very much God saying, don't eat that fucking... You can have everything you want here, but don't fuck with that tree over there. It's one of those moments, right? Tanais, being the smarter brother, the older brother, even though they're twins, he's a little bit older, like by a few minutes. He always obeyed. He was always the one groomed for command. He was always the one that was seen as to be the new ruler of mankind once their father Tan passes away. Odysseus was always kind of put on the side. He was always a troublemaker. He was always a schemer. He was always just curious about shit. And that always ended up biting him in the ass a lot. Anyway, long story short, Odysseus ventured into the forest, got himself hurt, was taken by these Anaku in the forest, mended, and his eyes were opened to the truth. Now, all they were ever taught was, in this forest here, it's a bad place, why you guys left it, it's horrible, we don't need to be talking about why it's so horrible. But Odysseus' eyes were opened and he realized everything he learned and everything he thought and everything that was taught to him was a fucking lie. God, being very angry at this, came to Tanais and said, your brother has betrayed you, your brother has betrayed his people, you must go into the forest and destroy him and destroy the forest. Raze it to the ground. And so Tanais did. Now Odysseus gathered what people he could, secret people, people that were thought to be destroyed, people that were rumored to be kind of like how we would imagine fallen angels and fairies and shit like that, like those kind of special people, the Fae people. He led them from the forest, escaping the grips of Tanais. He wandered through the Murphos, that giant massive desert that divides Tantorum and Adrana, on a journey of 32 years was he lost, until he finally happened upon the promised land that would later become Adrana. Okay? This is a very short story version of it because I have another point that I want to make here. Now, as Adrana grew, these Fae people these kind of like man but kind of not, were called keepers because they formed a sort of idealism that guided the people of Adrana. Now, that keepers of faith were the ones that knew the truth in how to access something in the mind. Now, they understood that religion is not something that we should just worship a god and and you praise him and you worship him and he looks after you and all that if you do it. Sure, fine and dandy. But they understood the truth behind religion. And that is to access parts of your mind, to flick them in the right direction so you can be geared to being a useful tool, not only just for society, but in and of yourself through the wealth of knowledge. Now, that wealth of knowledge, taught by the keepers, would soon be a dangerous weapon. If you see, a dark group was slowly infiltrating itself into human society. This outside non-human force was seeking to gather humankind under its power. And so slowly it was replacing with shapeshifters these priests of these keepers. And eventually a war of keepers happened where they've manipulated all of society in destroying these people and casting them out. Now eventually that did happen. And what came out of that was called Asuk Society. The Asuk Society is a group of fucking, think of how we look at bishops and stuff. And then how they have their own little quadrants and what the role of a bishop is. They oversee the newly constructed mindset called the Chantry of Adrerix. And this is a device that's used, as said before, religion used for control. Now these keepers, these last ones that were betrayed, eventually fled around the land and slowly and quietly fell away. Now, it is amongst that quiet time that the teachings of the keepers spread to certain small groups around the actual, the world of the map there. And one of them is most interesting, for it was the Fa Chu. Now the Fa Chu are a group of Anaku that live in the mountains. Interesting enough that the Keepers, which is an Aeonic, which is mankind, and an Aeonic creation, interesting enough that they kind of mingled with the Anaku and taught them this stuff. Later, that would be used against them when the Serpentine Order would rise, based off of the manifesto of Igun Fa Chu, one of the tribe members, who basically said, you know what, fuck mankind, they're the problem here. If we can eliminate mankind, maybe we can have our world back, maybe we can stop ourselves from fading away, which is the direct result of mankind. So that's like a whole thing that's going on. There's a lot of facets to this. I understand it can be confusing to somebody. Honestly, I'm glazing over quite a bit. But what I wanted to say is the Keepers of Faith were always a group that I made up a long time ago that I've always wanted to make my version of the Jedi, right? I liked that. I was like, well, they're like my fucking Jedi. That's cool. I saw the merit in that, this religious monk / warrior group. It made so much sense. And once I thrust them into the world, did I find that there's so many dimensions to explore with that it ended up being this whole complex thing of the Keepers were a protective group of of these warrior monks to mankind that were slowly destroyed by the Aztec society, cast out, gone into exile, and they all spread themselves amongst the world, right? Now, to me, that's a huge influence of Star Wars right there, is clearly what we're seeing. But the biggest thing I always look at with the Keepers are they had these books of knowledge. That's what they were ever called. It's just these books of knowledge. Now, within these books are journals, like first-hand account journals, or studies of like, yeah, we were reading this and this is what we discovered, blah, blah, blah. Or straight up accounts of transcendence. Now, the reason that they kept all this in these books was their own. I have yet to discover that, but I do know that inside of these books, this transcendence that they were keeping a record of was the transcendence into the other realm. Now, why was that important? Well, that's where they came from. So we're categorizing the transitional phase from where we came from and where we are now. And so their work was designed to always remember how to go back and forth, because over the years, these people that were pulled from this other realm long ago were eventually, they did eventually forget their past. And so they had to write this all down. One thing I didn't say about these Keepers was, as I said before, they were the Fae pulled from the forest. Well, those people that were put there were placed there by Dove, kind of their Prometheus. He made them, he put them in the world of life, for they were born in the world of the astral. Now, in these books, they talk about the transcendence of thought and idea, and a lot of the things that I've kind of touched on slightly, which the one I always use is manifestation and unmanifestation, and how we can pull from the other. In these accounts, they describe things such as the mind of God. And so, in order to access into this other realm, we have to find the mind of God, which the mind of God is something that tiptoes into our society and into our lives and into our whole reality. And it also tiptoes into the dream world, which those are the two main blends. You have the dream world and you have reality. And they're like this Venn diagram. And in the middle is that God frequency. That is described as the vessel. That vessel is what one uses to transcend up. Through that transcendence, that dark dream as they call it, because you basically have to have this ego death. You have to die. And then are reborn, and once you're reborn into this fractal nature of infinity, it's within that place that you're in the mind of God, the realm of creation, where all can be and everything has a place and a purpose. It's a whole ass thing. These Keepers made mention and note of all of this stuff, fragments and shit, and it's in these books all throughout, like wherever like they were exiled to. Well, we were exiled down here with these Viking people. Like, okay, well, we were exiled way up here with these like Nordic tribes in the fucking North Pole and shit. Like, it doesn't matter. Wherever they were, they hold the knowledge. I'm slowly realizing the whole time I always wanted Eris to go find these books. Here's what's interesting about it. The fact that I want Eris to go finding these books is because within those is trapped the Forgotten King, his brethren, and the Titans to duel forever, right? Well, that just can't keep happening. Because the farther they're apart from the world, the more the world falls into ruin, because they made it and they need its power. Well, we also need them to be here too. But they're too busy fighting. So Eris, our main hero, the fucking guy in the book, he has to find them. And it's an allegory in a sense, because the journals are mine. These are all the Keeper journals, I'm going to call them. And within them is the idea of transcendence. Within them are the ideas of how one can understand what the world is or how the world is, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't truly, like, I don't need to go into it vividly, but inside of it is the things to unlock, right? God, I'm sorry coughing, I can't help it. The keepers are spiritual beings sent to this plane of existence as guardians of all that is right. They know their fate and their purpose, though not their destiny. That is a mystery to them. Keepers know of a great plan, yet it is not its outcome. Their fate is to protect all, but their destiny is always in motion, always moving. Could be as small as writing a book or as big as protecting a race of people. And you'll fucking flash up to here and you find this one. The abyss, the feel, unknown, trap, self-doubt, rejection, fate. Shown the horrors of keepers, for on their trial walls are the mirrors of a long-forgotten age. That's that mural wall one, actually, I just stumbled right upon. Interesting. But each journal are essentially the stories and all the fragmented thoughts, ideas, sometimes even, okay, how do I word this? Sometimes certain keepers can have these hallucinations because they accessed the thoughts of the Forgotten King. Through that, they're able to get into writing some of the fucking shit the Forgotten King thought. Or sometimes other beings. So you'll find perspectives in the journals where it'll say, maybe the Forgotten King is the most evil fucking thing in the whole world. Other ones you'll read, like the Forgotten King is this bad, like this, what's that word? Betrayed man who's only wanting his wife back and shit. He's lost everything and his story is a sad one. There are many different things within these journals that Eris has to work through. Now, it works inside the story, but it also coming out as the writer, it works for me too, and I've been doing that. These forgotten journals are the very thing that have been helping me keep track of the story. So it's kind of like this meta thing where like I'm doing this thing where I need to use these journals to unravel the story. Well, you zoom in, well, Eris is also using these journals to unravel his story and what his purpose is. And it just so happens in the second book that I'm working on that he bumps into this old man in these mountains, and this old man's fleeing with one of the journals, one of the tomes. Fragmented, of course, not the whole thing. It'd be like him, you can only rip out like 10 pages and run. We don't even know why that is. I gotta figure out who this old man is and why he's running and where he got them from. But the one thing I do know is he got them from the Fa-Chu. Up in that monastery. The same Fa-Chu that Eris was being led to, possibly to his own demise, by Cypherus in Book 1. Interesting that that's also where the Keeper knowledge is. It's almost like this place is calling out to him all the time. Like, if you read Book 1, you'll find that was the very place that he was told he should have gone the whole time. But only nearing the end did he find out that it might have been his own demise if he did go. But now in Book 2, it's like he's going to slowly like hear, like, you might feel a little drawn towards that place because there's something there that you need to do, you think. So there's a whole lot of weird conflictions going on. Damn, dude. So there's a whole aspect within the stories of Eris having to unravel all of this. And the entirety of the stories is built upon what is reality even? Because if you, honestly, I've made videos about how the world works. You just gotta go back and find them. You know what I mean? Like, watch some of the videos on like Tantorum that I did, or all the other countries. I made these videos. Let's see if I can remember what they're called. I really don't remember some of the things I talk about, so it's gonna be kind of difficult for me to remember. But here are some videos that I think will help you. on my channel. So I think you can do that thing where you can search on my channel alone. It's a fucking option that you have, apparently. I did not know about this until like recently. One is called The World of Greed. That's a video you should watch. That'll help you do that. A video from a series called The Forgotten Revelation. Intro into the maps. Prologue. Intro into The Forgotten Revelation. Those are some videos that you should find as well. All of the Prelude to the Trade Wars series would be helpful as well. Each Prelude to the Trade Wars series focuses on a country, just a small brief description of the country and some of the history it's been to. The biggest one to understand the origin of mankind is Prelude to the Trade Wars, called Tantorum. Tantorum. I recommend watching a video called The Philosophy of the Anakume. Anakume is ANAKU space ME. That's probably the easiest way to write it. And then a video called The Philosophy of Mankind. Those will be pretty big in helping you understand their mindsets. And I have one called The Aeonic People. Aeon is AEONIC, Aeonic. That's a video to help you understand the mindset of the fucking people that are called Aeonic and where they came from. We have The Chains of Time, which helps you understand the way time works. And that's a good start for you to get. If you want to understand the world, man, like, there you go. Like, fucking A, man. The videos are on the channel. It's just like, you gotta go back. You gotta go backwards and look, you know? That's the best way to help you see what the fuck is going on here, because it would take too long to sit down in one session and say, let me tell you what this is. Because the books, the stories are so there's too much. It's just way too much. I can't go into it all. Like, because like what I described in the beginning there, like, I had to like bypass thousands of years by saying, like, you know, then the people came from the forest, and after that a kingdom of man grew. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was so many small stories in there, like the Cain and Abel's of this, and the story of this guy and that guy. Like, there's too much. There's way too much for me to sit down in one sitting. It would be hours and hours and hours long. Oh my god, dude. I did however you say that. I made a video once where I was talking about it. Maybe if I find it, I'll post it, I'll repost it in a sense. So we'll see. But just keeping it in mind, I really think you might dig the actual stories of all of this. I don't know how to say it. But I wanted to tell you about how the keepers kind of work for a minute, and who they are, and just a little snippet of what's kind of going on in the books.